One night changed her forever. Vertical bar, a true infidelity story. A CEO seeks a pretend companion for an enchanting gala evening. The sole presence amidst the chaos was the weary father, tirelessly mending her sink, a silent hero in the tapestry of her life. Anaya Mehra could hardly have imagined that her Monday morning would unfold with the unexpected chaos of a broken sink, the presence of a strikingly handsome handyman, and the looming shadow of an impending crisis. Yet, there she stood, in the heart of her penthouse kitchen, captivated by the relentless cascade of water, her fingers trembling as they hurriedly sought the number of the emergency plumber. "This is a calamity," she whispered softly, her heart heavy with despair. The cosmos seemed to chuckle at her plight, for amidst the weighty responsibility of steering one of the city's most formidable investment firms, she found herself facing the imminent gala in just 48 hours, and yet, she remained without a companion to share the evening's enchantment. Her assistant had navigated through the labyrinth of bookings, only to cancel three different options, leaving her teetering on the precipice of solitude, a fate she could not bear to embrace. The gala transcended mere social gathering. It became a realm of connections, where the essence of one's presence held profound significance. A sudden knock at the door shattered the tranquility of her reverie. As she swung the door wide, her heart fluttered at the sight of a man whose rugged handsomeness seemed far too exquisite for the humble profession of a plumber. "Raghav Sinha," he softly declared, as he tenderly adjusted the strap of his tool bag over his shoulder, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes of his character. His deep blue eyes danced momentarily with hers, then shifted to the chaos that lay in her wake. Upon hearing of your predicament, Anaya gracefully stepped aside, inviting him in with a gentle gesture. "Indeed, that is a perspective worth considering." Raghav knelt by the sink, his sleeves pushed up, exposing powerful forearms adorned with a hint of stubble that lent him an air of effortless masculinity. "Fortune smiled upon me," he remarked, as he deftly turned the valve. "It might have taken a different turn, but fate has been kind in its own way." Anaya stood with her arms crossed, her gaze fixed upon him as he immersed himself in his task. "My heart wavers in uncertainty." "Believe in me," he whispered, a smile dancing upon his lips. "I have witnessed far greater trials." She was captivated not only by his skillful hands mending the pipes but also by the grace with which he moved through the space around him. Assured and unwavering, yet devoid of hubris, he possessed the essence of a soul weathered by life's tempests, emerging with a resilience that spoke of profound journeys and unyielding spirit. "Is this your full-time passion?" she inquired, her voice laced with curiosity, seeking to weave a connection between them. With a gentle resolve, Raghav responded, his hands deftly securing the bolt. "I embrace every opportunity that comes my way, for I have a precious little girl to nurture." Anaya's gaze, tender and warm, reflected the depths of her understanding. "You are a father, a title that carries the weight of love and responsibility, a bond that intertwines hearts and souls in the most profound way." "Indeed," he replied, a gentle nod accompanying his words. "Dia, she is but 6 summers old. Sharp as a blade of the finest steel." The way he uttered her name, infused with pride and warmth, sent a delightful shiver through Anaya's heart, tightening it with an unspoken longing. Raghav gently wiped his hands on a rag, rising with a heart full of anticipation, ready to embrace the moment that awaited him. "It shall no longer be a burden upon your heart," she breathed out, a wave of relief washing over her. With a gentle nod, he expressed his gratitude, carefully gathering his tools as if each one held a cherished memory. "Delighted to be of assistance." Anaya paused, her heart fluttering as a spark of inspiration ignited within her. An utterly absurd notion, yet her heart was filled with a longing that left her no choice. "Raghav," she exclaimed, her heart racing with unspoken feelings. He glanced over his shoulder, a quizzical brow arched in silent inquiry. "Indeed, I find myself in need of a kind gesture. His expression shifted to one of careful contemplation. What sort of favor? She gasped, her breath catching in her throat. I seek a companion for the gala, Raghav murmured, his eyes wide with surprise. What is it that you seek? A rendezvous, she echoed softly. It is an event of great significance, and the thought of attending alone fills me with a sense of longing, he murmured with a soft laugh. It seems, dear heart, that you may have mistaken me for another. I shy away from the elegance of tuxedos and the clinking of champagne flutes. I shall pay you, she declared with a sense of urgency. With a captivating charm, Raghav's laughter slowly dimmed, giving way to a profound stillness within his heart. I am not someone to be pitied, Anaya declared with a newfound resolve. That is not the sentiment I intended to convey. He gazed at her for what felt like an eternity, then let out a deep sigh. Oh, Anaya, my heart is adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Extravagant gatherings hold little allure for me, she said, locking her eyes with his. I yearn for a genuine soul, one who won't seek to dazzle investors or murmur schemes into my ear through the night, Raghav sighed, his hand brushing against his jaw. All that is required of me is to arrive, wear a smile, and feign a sense of belonging. Indeed, she replied, with a heart full of understanding. His lips formed a delicate line, a silent testament to the turmoil within. Very well, I shall proceed with it. A wave of relief enveloped her heart. My heartfelt gratitude to you. With a single stipulation, he remarked, and she cast a disapproving glance. What is that, my dear? As I linger in the embrace of your world for a night, will you not grace my realm with a day? Anaya pondered, her heart caught in a delicate dance of longing. So, you have crossed paths with Dia? Observe the existence of those who dwell in a realm so different from ours? She gazed at him intently, her head nodding slowly in understanding. Agreed, Raghav replied with a playful smile. I wish for you to find no remorse in your choice. As he departed, Anaya was enveloped by an undeniable sensation that she had just entered into a pact that would alter the very fabric of her existence. Anaya found herself in a whirlpool of emotions, torn between the peculiar choice of hiring a handyman as her pretend date and the calm demeanor of Raghav Sinha, who appeared utterly unfazed by their unusual pact. In her realm, countless suitors would have eagerly seized the chance to accompany her to the gala, their hearts aflame with the desire to connect or to leave a lasting impression. Yet, dear Raghav, he had acquiesced with the same effortless grace with which he had mended her sink, as though the entirety of the moment was merely another task to be completed. 2 days later, she found herself before the full-length mirror, delicately adjusting the diamond earrings that harmonized beautifully with her deep emerald gown. The fabric embraced her form with a captivating grace, revealing just the right amount to enchant without causing scandal, while the daring slit along one side whispered of boldness and allure. She had selected the dress with utmost care, its sheen reflecting her strength, a poignant reminder to all at the gala that she held the reins of her destiny. A gentle knock at the door stirred her from the depths of her reverie. As she gently parted the door, there stood Raghav, transformed, radiating an essence that felt like a new dawn. The tuxedo she had sent over embraced him perfectly, the sharp black fabric accentuating the strength of his shoulders. The work boots and rolled-up sleeves had vanished, leaving behind a whisper of what once was. His dark hair, once wild and free, now lay perfectly arranged, and the subtle stubble gracing his jaw lent him an air of exquisite sophistication. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped them, his gaze a tender caress, deep blue eyes tracing her form from head to toe, as though he were beholding her for the very first time. Text, you look exquisite, he finally murmured, his voice a soft whisper, tinged with admiration. Anaya raised an eyebrow, a silent question dancing in her gaze. Just as I was gathering my thoughts, The very words were on the tip of my tongue, ready to dance into the air. He delicately fastened the cufflinks she had gifted him, a playful smile dancing upon his lips. In this moment, I envision myself cradling a glass of fine whiskey, the amber liquid reflecting my aspirations as I weave through the intricate dance of business negotiations. You need only to stand there, exuding an air of conviction, she responded, her fingers curling around her clutch with a delicate grace. Do you believe you can handle such a challenge? He extended his arm, his gaze a mystery that stirred the heart. It seems the answers await us in the unfolding of time. The gala unfolded in a venue that whispered elegance, a grand ballroom adorned with majestic crystal chandeliers that danced in the soft light, while the polished marble floors reflected the dreams of all who entered. Upon their entrance, a hush fell over the crowd, and every gaze was drawn to their presence. Anaya sensed the heavy burden of the stairs, the soft murmurs of curiosity swirling around her. She drew nearer, her lips brushing against Raghav's ear, a whisper of intimacy hanging in the air. They are already attempting to unravel the mystery of your essence, he chuckled, his rich laughter resonating against her skin like a gentle caress. Let their hearts be filled with curiosity. A waiter glided over, bearing a tray of sparkling champagne, and Raghav, with a gentle smile, took two glasses, offering one to her as he cast his gaze across the room, enveloped in a moment of shared anticipation. His visage was a canvas of mystery, yet she sensed the depths of his contemplation as he absorbed every nuance, weighing and evaluating with a heart full of unspoken emotions. Though he may have felt like a stranger in this realm, he stood unyielding, unafraid of its embrace. Just as she was about to utter another word, a voice, warm and familiar, pierced through the soft whispers surrounding them. "Oh, Anaya." She glanced over her shoulder to behold Kabir Thapar, a formidable rival CEO, lingering just a few feet away. He was the sort of man who seemed to relish every chance to diminish her, whether in the realm of commerce or in the delicate dance of dialogue. He spoke with a calmness that belied the surprise in his heart, his eyes momentarily drifting to Raghav, as if the presence of another could stir the depths of unspoken feelings. Pray, who could this enchanting soul be? Anaya beamed, intertwining her fingers with Raghav's arm, a gentle warmth blossoming between them. This is the heart and soul of Raghav Sinha. Kabir's eyes softened, a flicker of recognition dancing within them, as if the name held a secret melody waiting to be uncovered. Embrace. It seems our paths have yet to cross. In which realm do you weave your endeavors? Raghav moved with an effortless grace, as if the world around him paused to admire his unwavering resolve. Creation. Kabir's visage remained largely unchanged, yet Anaya perceived a fleeting glimmer of disdain in his eyes. How intriguing, he remarked, a glimmer of curiosity dancing in his eyes. Anaya often finds herself in the company of powerful executives and discerning investors, weaving through the intricate dance of ambition and desire. Raghav locked eyes with Kabir, a silent understanding passing between them. I create wonders. Her heart is a garden where she nurtures their dreams. It feels as though two souls are intertwined by an invisible thread, destined to meet in the tapestry of life. Anaya held her lips tightly, a delicate struggle to suppress the smile that threatened to bloom upon her face. She had not anticipated that he would navigate the moment with such grace, yet, there he stood, serene, unwavering, and utterly poised. Kabir offered a smile that barely touched his lips, a fleeting glimpse of warmth held back by the weight of unspoken feelings. May your evening be filled with joy and warmth. As he turned to leave, a soft sigh escaped Anaya's lips. Not too shabby. Raghav lifted the delicate flute to his lips, saving the effervescent kiss of the champagne as it danced upon his tongue. She sighed, enveloped in the weight of her thoughts, as she spoke of the company she kept, a reflection of her heart's yearning. Alas, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow upon the gathering, Raghav embraced his role with an artistry that transcended mere performance, weaving a tapestry of emotions that captivated all who beheld him. He possessed a gentle attentiveness, a quiet charm that drew one in without overwhelming, engaging in moments that mattered yet never straining for effect. And though he had never graced this realm with his presence, he moved with a grace that suggested he was born to inhabit it. Yet, as the night unfolded, an unforeseen twist emerged. Anaya became lost in the moment, her heart entwined with the unfolding drama, as if reality itself had faded away, leaving only the pure essence of her emotions. The gentle caress of Raghav's fingers as they fleetingly grazed hers, the intensity of his gaze upon her when he believed she was unaware, all unfolded with a natural grace that felt utterly uncontrived. It enveloped me in a hedge of vivid sensations, as if the very essence of existence had intertwined with my soul. As they ascended to the terrace, seeking a moment of solace from the thrumming crowd below, she rested against the railing, saving the crisp embrace of the night air. "This isn't so bad for a pretend date," he whispered softly, his voice laced with a hint of warmth. She cast her gaze upon him. "Not merely did you endure, but you flourished," he remarked with a gentle shrug. "I possess a remarkable ability to embrace change." The manner in which he expressed it stirred within her a deep curiosity about the countless adjustments he must have made throughout his journey. Yet, just as the question lingered on her lips, he gently lifted his hand, brushing aside a wayward lock of hair, tucking it tenderly behind her ear. The gesture, a sudden whisper of intimacy, left her momentarily frozen in time. His fingers brushed against hers, a fleeting touch that seemed to stretch time itself, and as their eyes locked, an unspoken connection ignited within her, sending her heart racing with a fervor she could not ignore. She felt the weight of the moment, a gentle whisper urging her to retreat. She whispered to herself that this was merely a pact, yet her heart remained still, unwilling to break the silence of the moment. And he too did not. The journey back to Anaya's penthouse was enveloped in a palpable, uncharted tension. It was a different sensation, one that transcended the familiar thrill of high-stakes negotiations or the strategic maneuvers at grand galas. This was a realm beyond words, a silent yearning that lingered just beneath the surface. In the opulent confines of the sedan, she sensed the unspoken tension that lingered between them. Raghav's presence beside her was electric, his eyes darting toward her with a hesitant longing, as if weighing the weight of words that danced on the tip of his tongue. The evening unfolded with a grace that surpassed her wildest dreams. Raghav had woven himself into the fabric of her existence with a grace that was as surprising as it was disconcerting. He had not merely portrayed the role, he had embraced it with a fervor that resonated deeply within the heart. And in that fleeting moment upon the terrace, Anaya released a gentle breath, allowing the fleeting thought to drift away as the car glided to a serene halt before her dwelling. The driver gracefully swung the door wide, and Raghav emerged first, his heart swelling as he held it open for her, a silent gesture of chivalry and affection. For a fleeting moment, she paused, her heart fluttering as she reached for his hand, the heat of his palm igniting a surge of emotions within her, both thrilling and disconcerting. The hour was late, and yet, a simple thank you should have sufficed to send him on his way, but the air was thick with unspoken words and lingering glances. Instead, she felt the words escape her lips, "Would you care to join me for a drink?" Raghav gazed at her intently for a fleeting moment, then offered a gentle nod. "Of course, my dear." Within the serene confines of the penthouse, a hush enveloped the space, while the city skyline unfurled like a lover's embrace, stretching infinitely beyond the grand windows that reached for the heavens. Anaya gently placed her clutch upon the cool marble counter, her steps graceful as she glided toward the bar, each movement a dance of anticipation. She filled two glasses with whiskey, her actions speaking volumes, as she did not pause to inquire if he desired one. "You carried yourself with grace this evening," she remarked, offering him a glass, surpassing my wildest dreams. Raghav savored the moment, his eyes locked in a tender embrace with the world around him. Did you truly believe I would bring you shame? She locked her gaze with his, a silent challenge lingering in the air. Uncertainty enveloped my heart, leaving me in a delicate dance with anticipation. He rested against the counter, an air of ease enveloping him, yet his gaze held a piercing intensity. In that moment, Anaya savored the warmth, allowing the fiery sensation to cradle her thoughts before she spoke. Now I find you more enigmatic than I ever imagined. Raghav placed his glass down, his gaze fixed upon her. You have grown accustomed to the familiar rhythm of predictability in others. She gently tilted her head, a delicate gesture that spoke volumes of her unspoken feelings. You have grown accustomed to the world's tendency to overlook your true worth. His lips quivered ever so slightly, a silent dance of uncertainty, leaving the truth suspended in the air between them. Instead, he savored another sip, allowing the silence to weave its delicate tapestry between them. It was not devoid of ease, yet it bore a heaviness akin to a dialogue that had begun ages ago, long before either soul had dared to recognize its presence. At long last, his voice broke the silence. Tonight, you stood your ground, she said, a playful arch in her brow. Each night, I find myself drawn to that ritual. I understand, he murmured, but experiencing it in person is an entirely different realm. Observing you glide through that space, each word falling from your lips with a perfect grace, a symphony of thought and feeling intertwined. It is truly remarkable. Anaya found herself ensnared by the weight of his words, their resonance stirring something deep within her soul, leaving her in a hedge of bewildered longing. Though she had received her fair share of compliments, there was an undeniable magic in the way Raghav expressed his admiration, as if he truly understood her essence, perceiving her in a manner that eluded the gaze of most others. She placed her glass aside, a wave of restlessness washing over her heart. You whispered that I must immerse myself in the essence of your realm for a day. When does such a moment unfold? He gazed at her for a fleeting moment, then retrieved his phone from his pocket, his eyes searching for the time. At what hour does the dawn's gentle light beckon you to rise? Anaya embraced herself, a silent testament to her unspoken feelings. I lead a venture that navigates the intricate dams of investments. Before the first light of dawn graces the world, I find myself awake. Raghav's expression danced with a hint of playful delight. Let us rendezvous at the enchanting corner where Fifth and Harper embrace as the clock strikes 7. She cast a piercing gaze, her eyes narrowing with unspoken intensity. What treasures await at Fifth and Harper? In time, you shall witness. A whisper of intuition stirred within her, hinting that this breakfast meeting would unfold in unexpected ways. Yet, she had committed herself to a promise, and Anaya Mehra was a woman of her word, unwavering and resolute. As she guided him to the threshold, a moment hung in the air, and just as he crossed the threshold, he paused, turning back to capture her gaze one last time. This evening unfolded in a manner both intriguing and unexpected. As their eyes locked, an unspoken connection blossomed, stirring the depths of their souls. It was a moment suspended in time, where the heart whispered secrets only the soul could understand. He paused, a fleeting moment of hesitation dancing in his eyes before he finally nodded. Rest your weary soul, dear Anaya. And then he vanished, leaving her poised in the threshold, her fingers clutching the doorframe with an intensity that spoke of her heart's turmoil. The following morning, Anaya found herself at the crossroads of Fifth and Harper, adorned in an outfit she believed struck a delicate balance between the realm of business casual and the enchanting world Raghav was poised to unveil before her. A modest blouse, deep hued jeans, and comfortable flats, far removed from the allure of designer heels. She caught sight of him, her heart fluttering, long before he became aware of her presence. Clad in faded jeans and a black t-shirt, he exuded an air of casual ease, yet there was a quiet determination in his stance as he carefully arranged the supplies in the bed of an aging pickup truck. As he turned to catch a glimpse of her, a soft, melodic chuckle escaped his lips, a sound that danced in the air like a gentle breeze. She crossed her arms, a hint of surprise dancing in her eyes, as if she had never truly believed he would arrive. With a gentle nod, he indicated the truck, a promise lingering in the air between us. With a playful glint in her eyes, Anaya surveyed the supplies, a hint of mischief dancing in her heart as she pondered the adventure that awaited them. What is it that we are embarking upon? Raghav closed the truck bed with a decisive sound, a moment that echoed with unspoken feelings. In the heart of the community, where laughter and dreams intertwine, Dia dedicates her afternoons to nurturing the spirit of the center, a sanctuary of hope and connection. The weary structures cry out for tender care, yet the city's heart beats slowly, indifferent to their plight. Anaya found herself enveloped in a whirlwind of unexpected emotions. She had envisioned a day spent in his presence, perhaps observing the grace of his work, not toiling away in the humble embrace of a community center. Yet, she was resolute, unwilling to yield. They approached a humble brick structure, its paint worn and faded, while the yard lay in a state of neglect, yearning for care and attention. A handful of volunteers had gathered, and among them was a spirited little girl who dashed towards Raghav the instant they emerged from the truck. "Father," Raghav knelt, embracing her with an ease that spoke of deep affection. "Oh, dear child," Anaya beheld the scene, a warmth blossoming within her as she noticed the unfiltered adoration shimmering in Dia's gaze. Raghav gazed upon her, his heart swelling with unspoken words. "Dia, behold, it is Anaya who speaks to you." Dia gazed at her with a deep, inquisitive warmth in her brown eyes. "You resemble a princess," he whispered, his words wrapping around her like a soft embrace, leaving Anaya momentarily breathless and enchanted. "I am forever grateful to you," Dia beamed with a radiant smile. "Will you lend us your hand in the art of painting?" "I suppose I am," Anaya replied, her gaze drifting towards Raghav, whose expression was laced with an undeniable mirth. The day unfolded like a tapestry woven with threads of unforeseen emotions, each moment a delicate brushstroke on the canvas of time. Anaya, a soul untouched by the art of creation, stood amidst a whirlwind of colors, her being adorned with delicate specks of blue and white, a canvas of her newfound adventure. Raghav stood by her side, offering guidance now and then, yet mostly allowing her the freedom to navigate her own path. In a moment of fervent urgency, Dia pulled her towards a cluster of weathered benches, their broken forms whispering tales of forgotten gatherings. "Father believes these require mending," Anaya whispered softly, her heart swelling with a tender resolve as she knelt beside her. "Is it true that he does?" Dia nodded with a weight of unspoken feelings in her heart. "He whispers that all wounds can be healed if one possesses the wisdom to mend them." Anaya cast a fleeting glance at Raghav, who stood a few feet away, his gaze fixed upon them with an intensity that stirred the air around them. His expression was a veil of mystery, yet it stirred a tempest within her heart, causing its rhythm to falter and dance in disarray. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow, the center transformed into a vision of beauty, radiating a newfound charm. Anaya was weary, her muscles protesting in unfamiliar ways, yet a sense of buoyancy enveloped her heart. Raghav, with a gentle gesture, offered her a bottle of water as he leaned against the truck, the moment suspended in a delicate balance of unspoken feelings. Thus, to endure the day, Anaya savored a deep sip before responding. Scarcely, he let out a soft laugh, his eyes dancing over the newly adorned walls, a canvas of vibrant dreams. "You have done well, my dear heart." As her gaze fell upon him, a flutter of recognition stirred within her, the way he uttered her name resonated deep within her soul, and that realization, more than any other, filled her with a profound sense of dread. In that moment, Anaya felt an exquisite awareness envelop her, as if Raghav's very essence had woven itself into the fabric of her being. As she rested against the truck, weariness weaving through her limbs, she sensed his presence beside her, not merely in a physical sense, but in a manner that stirred something profound and disquieting within her. The day unfolded with an unexpected grace, peeling back the layers of her heart, revealing the tender vulnerabilities she had long shielded from the world. She had entered his realm, her heart brimming with anticipation, ready to witness, to withstand. Instead, she had discovered herself enveloped in it, drawn in by the gentle cadence of his existence. In the gentle embrace of his daughter's laughter, Raghav glided through the world, his presence a gentle balm that soothed the chaos around him, instilling a serene confidence in all who crossed his path. When did that moment unfold? She turned to gaze upon him, her heart fluttering as the fading light wove delicate shadows across the striking contours of his visage. He observed her as well, his eyes unwavering, a mystery wrapped in silence. In the gentle embrace of the moment, he whispered, "You pondered too deeply, my dear." She let out a soft sigh, her head gently swaying in disbelief. "This is not something I typically engage in." He inclined his head ever so gently. "What is it that you seek to do?" She made a delicate motion, her hand dancing through the air like a whisper of longing. This is a moment suspended in time, where the heart whispers secrets only the soul can understand. Devote a whole day to the sweet embrace of leisure, where the burdens of work, the clamor of numbers, and the intricacies of strategy fade into the background. Raghav's gaze melted with a tenderness that did not go unnoticed by her. "Perhaps you ought to," she blinked, momentarily taken aback by the sheer elegance of his utterance. He was not seeking to confront her, nor was he advocating for any cause. He spoke with the raw honesty of his heart, revealing the truth as he perceived it. And what could be more heart-wrenching? In the depths of her heart, uncertainty lingered, casting shadows on her thoughts about his righteousness. Dia dashed towards them, her hair a delightful chaos, a testament to a day filled with joyous play and vibrant strokes of paint. She gazed up at Anaya, her eyes brimming with hope and longing. "Will you return to me?" Anaya lingered, acutely aware of the weight of Raghav's gaze upon her. For years, she had navigated the tempest of choices, her heart steady as she sealed deals worth millions, her gaze unwavering and resolute. Yet, this. The innocent inquiry from a tender 6-year-old caused her to pause, her heart momentarily caught in the web of unspoken emotions. Dia's gaze lingered on her, a tapestry of hope woven across her features, and Anaya felt a lump rise in her throat. "Indeed. I believe I shall." A radiant smile blossomed on the little girl's face, a fleeting moment of pure joy, before she darted away once more, leaving Anaya rooted in place, her heart constricted by an unfamiliar ache. Raghav remained silent, his thoughts a tempest of unspoken words. He gazed at her, an enigmatic spark dancing in the depths of his eyes. The journey back to the city unfolded in a serene hush, a stillness that wrapped around the heart like a gentle embrace, soothing yet profound. It was a moment alive with unspoken words, heavy with the delicate tension of something transforming in the space that separated them. As they approached her building, the city lights had woven a tapestry of brilliance across the sky, illuminating the sleek glass of her penthouse windows with a warm, inviting glow. She ought to have simply whispered goodnight. She ought to have emerged from the truck, ventured inside, and allowed the tumult of emotions to find their calm. Yet, she chose not to. Instead, she turned to him, her fingers gently curling against her lap, a silent testament to the tempest of feelings within her. As Raghav's gaze rose, a fleeting emotion danced within his eyes, a mystery that lingered just beyond comprehension. "Anaya, spare me your excuses," she interjected, cutting him off before his words could fully take shape. "Simply arrive, my dear. In that fleeting instant, she felt a tremor of doubt, fearing he might decline, perhaps uttering words about their disparate realms, lamenting how this delicate connection threatened to intertwine paths that were never meant to converge. Yet, he chose not to. With a gentle nod, he engaged the gear into park, then gracefully stepped out into the world beyond. The ascent in the elevator was thick with an unspoken tension, a palpable weight that lingered in the air, impossible to overlook. She sensed the warmth of his presence beside her, the silent burden of all that had unfolded in the past few days resting heavily in the confined space. As the doors gracefully parted, she beckoned him within, gently placing her bag upon the counter, a silent invitation to the world they were about to share. Raghav absorbed the ambience, his gaze wandering over the gleaming floors, the expansive windows that reached for the sky, and the thoughtfully arranged decor that whispered tales of elegance. He had wandered these paths in the past, yet tonight, an enchanting aura enveloped the air, making everything feel profoundly unique. It seems almost unreal, he whispered, his fingers gliding over the smooth marble countertop. With her arms gracefully crossed, she tilted her head ever so slightly, a delicate gesture that spoke volumes of her unspoken thoughts. Your words suggest a shadow over what could be a beautiful truth. He turned to face her, a myriad of emotions dancing in his gaze, leaving her breathless and longing for understanding. No, just different. Anaya felt a wave of emotion as she swallowed against the sudden dryness in her throat. And to be different is to be shinned. Raghav remained silent for a moment, lost in thought. Instead, he moved with deliberate grace, each step drawing him closer to her, as if the very air between them crackled with unspoken longing. Her heart raced, and a soft gasp escaped her lips. No, he murmured, his voice softened like a gentle breeze at dusk. Not too shabby. In that fleeting moment, uncertainty enveloped her, as if time itself held its breath, leaving her to ponder the delicate dance of their hearts. In a fleeting moment, the distance that once lingered between their souls vanished, leaving only the intoxicating closeness of their hearts. They stood closer, the moment charged with emotion, as if words no longer held meaning. Their hands found each other naturally, caught in a quiet moment of truth. For a soul who had woven her existence around the threads of control and meticulous choices, this moment was a tempest of unpredictability. This was something unexpected, intense in its quiet honesty. As they gently separated, hearts racing, he leaned his forehead tenderly against hers. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered, his voice laced with a hint of despair. Anaya released a gentle, airy laugh that danced through the air like a whisper of love. "Perhaps." Raghav drew back slightly, his gaze locking onto hers, his fingers lingering gently on her waist. And yet, she locked her eyes with his, the memory of the moment still echoed between them. And yet, her voice lingered in the air, a haunting melody of unspoken feelings. In the depths of their hearts, an unspoken understanding lingered, a delicate dance between what was and what could never be. Yet, in that fleeting instant, everything else faded into insignificance. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Anaya Mehra found herself unburdened by the weight of tomorrow's uncertainties. In that fleeting moment, she graced his presence, filling the air with an intoxicating blend of warmth and longing. Anaya had not comprehended the simplicity of allowing someone to enter her heart until the gentle stirrings of dawn revealed Raghav, a presence she had come to cherish, bustling about her kitchen. The aroma of coffee wafted gently through the penthouse, intertwining with a warmth and richness that seemed to awaken the very essence of her once cold, polished sanctuary. She draped a robe around her shoulders and glided toward the kitchen, her heart fluttering as she paused at the sight of him by the stove, skillfully flipping what appeared to be pancakes, a tender moment suspended in time. He wandered without shoes, his t-shirt bearing the gentle creases of a carefree spirit, while his tousled waves of hair added an irresistible charm to his already captivating presence. She stood by the threshold, her gaze fixed upon him, a silent witness to the unfolding moment. Ah, the delightful aroma of your culinary creations fills the air. He cast a fleeting look behind him, a serene smile gracing his lips. I gathered that your palate craves only the finest, meticulously measured meals presented in pristine, sealed containers. With her arms gracefully folded and a brow arched in intrigue, she exuded an air of captivating mystery. And you chose to grace me with the delightful gift of pancakes. Raghav gently placed one onto a plate, then turned to her, his gaze filled with an intensity that spoke volumes. They hold a special place in Diya's heart. I thought I might discover whether they can meet the lofty ideals you hold dear. Anaya lingered for a moment, her heart fluttering, before she gracefully stepped forward to accept the plate he extended to her. She cut into the pancake, taking a bite. The warmth of it melted on her tongue, the subtle hint of cinnamon surprising her. She chewed slowly, then set the fork down with a nod. Not bad. His lips twitched slightly. High praise coming from you. She ignored the comment and poured herself coffee, trying to ignore how domestic this felt, how unfamiliar. The gala had been a test. A momentary arrangement that should have ended the second the event was over. But then there was the community center, Diya. The way Raghav had kissed her like she was something worth holding on to. She should have been the one to pull away first. She hadn't. And now, standing here in her kitchen, eating pancakes made by a man who shouldn't fit into her world but somehow did, she realized the boundaries she had so carefully drawn were blurring. Raghav leaned against the counter, studying her. You're thinking too hard again, she exhaled, setting the fork down. I don't do this. His expression didn't change. Do what? This, she gestured vaguely between them. Whatever this is. He took a sip of his coffee, watching her over the rim. You mean letting someone in? She tensed slightly. I mean getting attached. Raghav didn't say anything at first. He simply set his mug down and took a step toward her. You think attachment is a bad thing? She met his gaze. I think it's dangerous. His fingers brushed against the counter, his posture relaxed despite the weight of the conversation. Because people leave, her throat tightened. Because people disappoint? Raghav nodded slowly as if he understood something she wasn't saying out loud. I don't know what kind of people you've had in your life, Anaya, he said, his voice steady. But I'm not them. She wanted to believe that, but belief required trust, and trust wasn't something she gave easily. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen, seeing her assistant's name flashing. Reality came rushing back. She picked it up, answering briskly. The conversation was short, direct. Her presence was needed at the office. A situation required her immediate attention. Raghav watched her as she ended the call. Work, she nodded, already shifting back into the version of herself that knew how to handle problems, how to compartmentalize. I have to go. He didn't stop her, didn't push, but as she grabbed her bag and walked toward the door, she hesitated. She turned back, meeting his gaze. Are you free tonight? His expression remained unreadable for a moment before he nodded. Yeah, she exhaled, dinner. My place. Something flickered in his eyes, something she didn't quite have the courage to name. All right, he said simply. She nodded once, then walked out the door before she could second-guess herself. By the time evening arrived, Anaya had convinced herself that dinner was nothing more than a rational extension of their arrangement. They had spent time in his world, now she was inviting him into hers. That was all. And yet, as she set the table, carefully selecting the wine, checking the menu twice, she felt something entirely unfamiliar settle in her chest. She was nervous. She never got nervous. A knock at the door pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. She opened it to find Raghav standing there, dressed in dark jeans and a button down that somehow made him look both effortless and devastatingly put together. He held up a brown paper bag. Lena insisted I bring dessert. Anaya arched a brow. Does she know where you are? Raghav stepped inside, setting the bag on the counter. She might have asked if I was going to see the princess again. Anaya's lips curved slightly. I assume you corrected her, he shrugged. Didn't have the heart to, she shook her head, turning back toward the kitchen. Wine, sure. She poured two glasses, handing him one before leading him to the dining table. The meal was quieter than she expected, but not uncomfortably so. There was a different kind of tension between them now, something neither of them seemed willing to name. By the time dessert had been cleared, she found herself leaning back in her chair, studying him. You fit in tonight, she said. Raghav took a slow sip of wine. You sound surprised. I am, he set the glass down, watching her. You keep trying to put me in a box, Anaya. First you thought I wouldn't belong at the gala. Then you assumed I wouldn't understand your world. Now you're surprised I fit into this moment. She tensed slightly. That's not what I meant. He leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. Then what did you mean? She opened her mouth, then closed it again, because she didn't have an answer. Or rather, she didn't have an answer she was ready to admit. Raghav exhaled, pushing his chair back. I should go. Panic flickered through her, too fast for her to conceal. She didn't want him to go, she wanted him to stay. And that terrified her more than anything else. But before she could say anything, he was standing, grabbing his jacket. I had a good time, he said, his voice softer now, more than I should have. Anaya's pulse pounded in her ears. Raghav, he looked at her waiting, she could stop him. She could ask him to stay, but then what? She wasn't ready for what came after, so she did what she had always done, she let him go. And as the door closed behind him, she realized with a sinking certainty that for the first time in her life, she might have just made the wrong choice. Anaya told herself she had done the right thing. Letting Raghav walk out of her penthouse, out of her carefully structured life, was the logical choice. She wasn't built for entanglements, for vulnerability. She had spent years crafting an existence that was untouchable, impenetrable. So why did she feel like she had made a mistake? The next few days passed in a blur of meetings and business deals, each one executed with precision, with the same ruthless efficiency that had built her reputation. But beneath the surface, something was off. She found herself distracted at odd moments, thinking about him when she should have been focused, the way he had looked at her before leaving. The way he had fit so seamlessly into her world, yet never tried to change himself to do it, the way she had wanted him to stay. She hated uncertainty. And Raghav Sinha had introduced an unbearable amount of it into her life. By the time Friday evening arrived, she had resigned herself to pushing past it. She had a dinner meeting with potential investors, a high-profile acquisition on the horizon. There were far more important things to focus on than a man who had no place in her world. At least that was what she told herself. But then, fate had other plans. She was stepping out of the restaurant, adjusting the coat drape over her shoulders when she caught sight of him across the street. He wasn't alone. Lana was tugging at his hand, pointing at something in a bakery window, her excitement visible even from a distance. Raghav was crouching beside her, his attention fully on her, nodding at whatever she was saying. Anaya should have walked away. Instead, she found herself standing there, watching. A warmth spread through her chest, something dangerous, something she couldn't afford to feel. Lana turned suddenly, her gaze landing on Anaya. For a moment, the little girl blinked, as if unsure whether she was seeing correctly. Then, her face lit up. She tugged at Raghav's sleeve, pointing. He turned, and the second his eyes met Anaya's, everything else faded. There was no escaping now. He hesitated, then murmured something to Lana before straightening and crossing the street with her beside him. Anaya steeled herself, forcing her expression into one of polite indifference. "You're everywhere," Raghav said as he reached her, his voice carefully neutral. She lifted a shoulder. "I could say the same about you." Lana grinned up at her. "Hi, princess." Anaya's lips parted slightly before she managed to smile. "Hello, Lana." The little girl bounced on her heels. "Daddy got me a cupcake." "Do you like cupcakes?" Anaya hesitated. "I don't usually eat them," Lana gasped, horrified. "How do you live?" Raghav huffed out something close to a laugh, shaking his head. Anaya found herself smiling despite herself. "I manage." Lana studied her seriously. "You should have won. Cupcakes make everything better." There was something disarming about her, something so pure and unaffected. It unsettled Anaya in a way she hadn't expected. Raghav exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "We were just heading home." Dia looked between them, then tugged at Raghav's sleeve. "Can she come with us?" Anaya sucked in a breath. Raghav hesitated. This was the moment, the crossroads. He could make an excuse, she could decline, or they could stop pretending. Raghav's gaze locked onto hers. "What do you say, heart?" She wasn't sure who was more surprised when she answered, "All right." The drive was quiet but not uncomfortable. Dia filled the silence with excited chatter, detailing the events of her day, the cupcake flavors she had debated between, the book she had just finished. Anaya listened, fascinated by how effortlessly Raghav engaged with her, how easily he made her feel heard. She had spent her life surrounded by powerful men, men who commanded boardrooms and dictated markets. But none of them had ever held the kind of quiet strength Raghav did. It wasn't about dominance. It was about presence. When they arrived at Raghav's place, Anaya took in the warmth of it. It wasn't grand or extravagant, but it felt lived in real. Dia ran ahead, setting her cupcake on the counter before disappearing into her room. That left only them. Raghav leaned against the kitchen island, arms crossed. "Didn't expect you to say yes." Anaya met his gaze. "Neither did I." He studied her, something unreadable in his expression. "Why did you?" She could have given a dozen different answers. But only one was true, "Because I didn't want to walk away." Something shifted in his eyes. Slowly, he pushed off the counter, closing the space between them. "You're terrified of this, aren't you?" he murmured, her breath caught. "Terrified of what?" He reached up, tracing a finger along the edge of her jaw. "Of something real." She wanted to deny it, but she couldn't, because he was right. She had spent years keeping people at arm's length, ensuring no one ever got close enough to hurt her. And yet, Raghav had gotten in any way. She swallowed hard. "I don't know how to do this." His fingers curled gently around her wrist, grounding her. "Then let's figure it out together," she exhaled shakily. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like running, instead she leaned in. And when he kissed her, slow and certain, she knew she wasn't going anywhere. Months later, as she stood in the newly renovated community center, watching Dia cut the ribbon with exaggerated excitement, Anaya realized how much had changed. She had fought against them, but Raghav had never pushed, never demanded. He had simply been there, steady and certain, until she was ready. And now, as he wrapped an arm around her waist, pressing a kiss to her temple, she knew she had made the right choice. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't just building an empire. She was building a life, with him, and she wouldn't trade it for anything.